First of all, I get your everybody. We're Baruch Hashem, we're catching up in time, and maybe even ahead of time. But as the plan is that when we finish this booklet, which is 3 Simanim, Pei Zayin, Pei Ches, and Pei Tes, then we'll have hopefully both a written exam and also probably one of the Rabbanim to come either to Feher or to talk to us or both to see how it's running. So again, we're probably going to finish earlier. The schedule is right in the beginning of Cheshvan to have a test, but the test will be on the paper. It says a time of a written test, but it'll be both a written and a oral by one of the Rabbanim of the 5 Rabbanim we have on our board. So we're going to start today a new Siman with an introduction. I know we didn't go into Shachataz, I think, in 2 Sei'fim, one in Pei Zayin, one on the end of Pei Ches. I think we didn't do the Shach. Eventually, once we finish here, we're probably going to have more time to review and see whatever we can go inside of Shachataz. Again, the first step will be on this booklet, which is Pei Zayin, Pei Ches, and Pei Tes. The first Siman gave it a general outline what the halach is about bishul, about basar b'cholov. The second siman of Pei Ches, we spoke about another chumrah that the Rabbanu was machmir, that not to eat on the same table meat and milk, whether you're alone or with somebody else. There has to be a heker, or all these kind of rules, how to precaution not to come to the point of you yourself eating both meat and milk. Today we're going to start a new siman. We're not going to get too far into the new siman, but we'll get to a new siman that will talk about something which is very practical, and every child knows about this, but you don't know the details. And the detail we'll talk about the siman is that Chacham said, in addition to the chumrah of the Chachamim, not to eat meat and milk, which is not cooked, only cold mixture or salted mixture or a pickled mixture, or any kind of other kind of way that mixed without cooking, or not even meat, but chicken, poultry, and all that. In addition to that, the Chacham came up with another idea, another problem, another gzeira. When you eat meat, you got to wait 6 hours for cheese. So we're going to get to that. What's this whole idea of the waiting? The waiting of the 6 hours, the separation between one meal and the other. We learned about you're not allowed to have it together. The next sin was talking about don't have the same table. Now we'll see there's a zman of hamtona, the waiting period between one meal and the other. And we'll see the difference between what was first. If it was the meat was first, you have to wait 6 hours. And if the cheese was first, less than that, the difference is that. And also another chumrah that Chacham said that you have to wash your hands, rinse your mouth. Wash your hands. I guess in the olden days you didn't wash your hands pretty often, but yeah, you worked the whole day. You ate with your same fingers, and on your fingers can have some oily from the cheese or from the meat. So the Chacham said if you have one meal after the other, you have to wash your hands, and also you have to have kinuach v'adocher. Kinuach v'adocher means 2 ways how to wash your mouth: one with liquid and one with solid. So the common practice is you have like a piece of challah, that's a solid thing, and also liquid water to rinse your mouth from whatever you had in the previous meal. So before we get to the beginning of the siman, I want to make a little introduction to get to the siman and to learn at least one sif of the siman. There's a Gemara in Chulin of Kufhei Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, Omer Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva says, if I ate meat, I will not eat cheese in the same meal until the next meal. Ad suda achrina. I'll eat the cheese till the next meal. That's the statement that he says. Mar Ukva is a Tana, which I'm going to explain the reason why I'm emphasizing the Tana, because the Lechem Mishnah in Rambam says because he was a Tana and he's a Talmud Chacham, that's going to be a Raya, a Siman. How did we get to the number 6 hours? Why 6 hours? Where did we get the number 6? So Mar Ukva says, I didn't eat in the same meal meat and cheese. If I ate a meat meal, I waited to eat cheese till the next meal. That's what he said, till the next meal. Now the question is, what's considered the next meal? What was the rules? What is considered next meal? So there will be three opinions, and that will play difference between the Mechaber and the Ramah. And even the opinion that's not mentioned halacha also has an application halacha when we have a hefsed merubah or other scenarios. So let's talk about the 3 days pshat in the Gemara that you have to wait for the next meal. The Ramah makes a pshat. The Ramah at the end, no. So let's first do the original 3 opinions, and then we'll get the psak din. Now we know the Beis Yosef, he said when he wrote his psak din, he wrote a Shulchan Aruch, he says, I'm basing my Shulchan Aruch on 3 earlier poskim. The Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh. The Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak Al-Farsi, I think I mentioned in the beginning of the introduction. Rabbi Yitzchak Al-Farsi, he lived in Morocco. The Rambam, and the Rosh. And he said, if 2 out of the 3 have one opinion, I'll follow the 2 out of the 3. That's where the issue came. But the Ramah says you only follow these 3. How about the other Ashkenazi poskim? And the Ramah wanted to bring in Ashkenazi poskim, the Maril or the other poskim. So here we have in this Gemara, we have the Rif and the Rosh and the Rambam say the same opinion. What they say is, what does it mean next meal? Next meal means when does a person change meal? Meal is from breakfast to dinner. There was no afternoon meal. From breakfast to dinner. So how much time does it lapse from the first meal of the day to the second meal of the day? 6 hours. How do we get 6 hours? Says the Lechem Mishnah, again, the Lechem Mishnah explains the Rambam. The Rambam says this, that from one meal to the other meal, Marukva says, I wouldn't eat it in the same meal. I would eat it in the next meal. Says the Rambam, the next meal is 6 hours. How do you get 6 hours? Says the Lechem Mishnah on the Rambam, Hilchot Machol Asuras, Perik Tes, Halacha Chof Ches, the Lechem Mishnah explains, Marukva was a Talmud Chacham. And the Gemara says, a Talmud Chacham, his first meal is the 6th hour of the day. The day starts 6, right? So what time would he eat? 6 hours later will be his first meal. The next meal will be 6 o'clock. So between the first meal and the second meal was 6 hours, according to the Cheshbon of the Lechem Mishnah. That's why the Rambam and the Rosh and the Rif got number 6, because from one meal to the other meal was 6 hours by Talmud Chacham. Okay. Sorry? That if you ate a fleishik meal, he would not eat cheese till the next meal. Basar behema. How long do you have to wait? Where do you take the whole thing? We're looking at the original. Where do you got to wait for cloud? Oh, the number. Oh, we'll get to the reasoning why. But yeah, the Gemara Brach says that the Gemara Brach, yeah, at the Talmud Chacham, he actually till they behave to spend 6 hours a day is his first meal, and then 6 hours. Then 6 o'clock is supper. So that's the Mishnah explains why you get number 6. Yeah, sure. Okay, let's say we'll tweak the hours and make it 6 hours. Good. In halacha, there will be such a heter. There will be such a heter for people who in the 6th hour commission has milky, but that we don't want to get that now. Right. But obviously, in Hilchos Shabbos plays also a role. We're talking about if a person who gets paid from Simchas Shabbos Yom Tov. First Siman Al Television or Siman Reish Mem Beis. So if you get food, tamcho, you get food from an organization like Simchas Shabbos Yom Tov, the organization doesn't have to give you 3 meals a day. Only for Shabbos they have to give you 3 meals a day. For the weekdays, they have to give you 2 meals a day. That was the common practice. They didn't eat midday. There wasn't a meal. It was morning, at night. Okay. So this is the opinion of the 3 poskim, Rif, Rambam, and Rosh, that Suda Achrina means what next meal, which is 6 hours. I'd like to mention now that the Pri Chodosh writes on this combination of the Rambam and the Rif and Rosh, 6 hours apart. The Pri Chodosh says, hey, the difference between a morning meal and a second meal, 6 hours, that's only in the summer season, from Pesach to Tishrei. But in the winter season, when the day is shorter, they don't have a lapse of 6 hours between the breakfast and lunch. It's only a lapse of 4 hours. So the Pri Chodesh. So the Pri Chodesh says that the whole din, which we're going to learn about, 6 hours, he says, only is in the summer months. But in the winter months, it's a 4-hour period because the whole market is from meal to meal in the winter time. When the day is shorter, they had a 4-hour lapse. That's the Pri Chodesh's word.
The Rambam is what you should eat in the summer, what you should eat in the winter.
That's hot and cold. Yeah.
No, it's the whole digestion works differently.
Right. But I'm going to mention something that I did a whole research, and hopefully the next year will be ready. A whole shaila and shuva that I put together will also have an effect of the Pri Chodesh. We'll mention in a second. We'll soon get to that.
There's also 1 hour.
1 hour. This is Ramah. Okay. Now, so according to this opinion of the three Gdola Poskim, the Rosh, the Rif, and the Rambam, they need to wait 6 hours between one meal and the other meal. Plus, there has to be a benching, because it says a new meal. There must be a siyum asudim. There has to be a completion of the first meal. So if the first meal was a fleishik meal, you can't drag out the meal by having a fabrengen and 6 hours later bring out the pizza. You can't do that. There has to be a siluk. There has to be an end of the first meal. The end of the first meal with the birchas hamazon, the bracha achreina. If you had a meal with bread or whatever you had, a meal, bracha achreina, siluk asudar, then you wait 6 hours and you can have milchik. Those the 6 hours mean from benching or from when you ate the meat, from when you ate the meat. But even if from when you ate the meat, there cannot be in the same suda. If you didn't bench yet, you cannot have both in one suda. Why? If it's a one suda, it's not suda achrina. This is only the yukim of the Rif, Rosh and Ram. Even though you wait 24 hours, he says. But then the suda is over automatically. Okay. One at a time. What? So the kiddush is chelik the suda, the davening. So you can make Shabbos suda, but you can't have. There has to be a siluk of the suda sorry in order to eat the cheese. We'll get to that. The Ramos gonna say you can't do that. Good. All the three, the Rif, Rosh, and Rambam said all the three, they're all the same. You have to wait 6 hours, and it has to be suda achrina. Suda achrina means you have to bench by the first meal. The third thing is we spoke about is kinuach v'adocha, to rinse your mouth and the chitzas yadayim. So these three poskim, the Rif, the Rosh, and the Rambam, they say if you wait 6 hours, even if you're allowed to eat the cheese, even if you don't wash your hands and you don't rinse your mouth by liquid or by solid. Why? Because whatever taste you had in your mouth for 6 hours is like mu'ukol, it's like digested food already. It's not edible anymore. There's no more tambasa there. There's nothing. The shamnunis, the fatty, oily fingers that you have, or the oily things that you have in your mouth, is not busted anymore after 6 hours. So even if you did not wash your hands and did not rinse your mouth, you're allowed to have cheese 6 hours after the meat meal, pending that there was a birchas hamazon. So there's two criteria that they want. They want to have another meal, birchas hamazon, and time of 6 hours. That is the opinion of these three poskim. Right. We just explained that Maruku had a 6 hour lapse between one and the other. In other words, the Gemara doesn't use the word 6 hours. The Gemara says next meal. The poskim came up. How much is next meal? 6 hours. But so in other words, it's an interpretation of the Gemara. Our second opinion is we read the Tosfos. The Tosfos and the Raviyah. I'm going to see a difference between the Tosfos and the Rabbeinu Tam and Tosfos. There are two different Tosfos in the Gemara Chulim. One is Kufay Amid Aleph. One is Kufay Amid Beis. Tosfos' opinion is that the Ikir, let's take the word of Marukva. Marukva says, I will not eat cheese after I eat meat, only Suda Achrina, next meal. So the Tosfos says, Suda Achrina, translate literally. If you bench after the meat meal, You right away let her have a cheese meal. Where do you get this whole waiting period? He says, as long as it's not in one suda, the Chachamim didn't come up with new things here. The Chachamim don't want you to have a chash to eat bas b'cholov in the same meal. If you're benched, go ahead and start now cheese meal. Okay, 1 second. So according to the Taisa says you have it. The ikar is suda achrina, but according to Taisa, because it's so close to each other, you might have oily fingers and some taste of shamnunis in your mouth. They say you must have washing your hands and rinsing your mouth both ways. Kinuach v'adocha, both kinuach v'adocha means by liquid rinsing your mouth, or by and by solid, a piece of challah, a piece of cake to rinse your mouth, or anything you ate part of in between. You ate something part of it, you ate cookies or cake. So again, the second opinion will be the taste opinion, that you don't have to wait no period of time. Where do you get time, he said? And Marukva said, next meal. So after the first meal, you're benched, new meal, you can have cheese. But wash your hands and rinse your mouth. Each one acted that way. They, the mice are poil, correct. Where's the rice? We'll get to that. Good. Each one of the paskin that way. Right? Chicken. Kinuach v'adocha. No, there's two things. Kinuach v'adocha both are rinsing your mouth by liquid and solid. And kinuach is the rinsing, and hadocha is rinsing. We'll get to the psak din. These are. So, and you had not a basic little ate chicken and had a coffee. So the people had those opinions, but it has to come down to psak mais, psak halacha. That's where halacha comes in.
How wrong can you be if it's
Oh, so we spoke about it in one of the early shurim. We today's time, I don't have a right to say I follow Rabbi Yossi opinion, and Rabbi Yossi says chicken is not meat. The Shach said I can't do that. Once the psak din paskin that chicken is meat, I can't say I follow Rabbi Yossi for him. For me, it's good enough for Rabbi Yossi. The psak din made it clear for us we have no choice anymore. Before the psak din, people would choose Rabbi Yossi opinion or the other person's opinion, like Bisham and Basila. Once the psak din came, we're bound of the psak din. No, nobody obeys. Yes, because now there's a psak din. The same thing as the Mishnah. There's a machlokes in the Mishnah, and then we pass him. But so are you passing like one of them? The other one is wrong, not wrong, and he did his ways right. Yes, sorry. Kinuach is rinsing with liquid, hadoch is with piece of cake or challah or anything solid. Besides that, there's the tilas yadayim or the chitzas yadayim. Either way. Yes. So this is again, we have two opinions so far. Rambam Rif and Rosh says there has to be siluk from the Suda, which means benching, and 6 hours. Taisa says, where do you get time limit? Doesn't say anything about time limit. It says new meal. You have to bench. Right away you can have a cheese meal, but you must wash your hands and rinse your mouth. That's the second opinion. The third opinion will be Rabbeinu Tam and the Bahag. Need benching. Because it's not benching, it's not surachlina. The Bahag and the Tam come with a new twist here. Bahag, Baal Halachas Gedolos. Beis Hey Gimel is a Rishtevis of Baal Halachas Gedolos. He was a one of the early Toises who wrote Halachas. So the Bahag, yes, but he was the early Baal Toises. The Toises quotes Bahag also. You're going to find in Toises and Shas the Baal Halachas Gedolos. So the Bahag and the Beitam, they say kind of a little twist in the Gemara. They say, the Gemara, Marukva said, a new meal. You know when you need a new meal? When you didn't wash your hands, you didn't rinse your mouth. But if you rinse your mouth and wash your hands, you can have cheese in the same meal. When does Marukva say that I'm not going to have cheese till the next meal because he didn't wash his hands and didn't rinse his mouth? But if it's sitting in the same meal and he middle of the meal, he decides to go to wash his hands and rinse his mouth, go ahead, have the cheese. So we have here three opinions in kind of extreme. I'll repeat the opinions again. Rosh Rambam Arif says that Marukva said next meal, meaning we have to calculate next meal is 6 hours. Also, next meal means benching the first meal. Toysa says next meal means benching, but there's no area of waiting. You bench, right away you can have a cheese meal, but you have to wash your hands and you have to rinse your mouth. The Rabbi Tam says that the whole thing of waiting to the next meal is only because you didn't rinse your mouth, you didn't wash your hands. But if you wash your hands and rinse your mouth, you can have the cheese in the same meal, even without benching one another. Because what the Marukva says, the Sudachrina is, why Sudachrina? Because they didn't wash hands. People those days didn't have so much water like we have. They washed hands in the morning and then the next end of the day. So they had your shamnunis, you have to wait the next meal. But if I wash my hands, rinse my mouth, said to me time, I'm allowed to eat cheese right away in the same Suda. Okay. So Sudachri is davke im leirochatz yodov. Yeah. And kinuach hapeh. He said, no, both. He said, what did Marukva mean? Sudachrina is only when in a case where you did not wash your hands and did not rinse your mouth, then you need Sudachrina. Correct. Correct. It's still have shanunis. You still have shanunis. Somehow the shanunis will get on you. What? No, so he learned Pshat. He's medayik in Sudachri. Sudachri is only if you didn't wash. Then he wouldn't say Sudachrina. He said, when does the Marukva say Sudachrina? Only in the case you didn't wash. What? Exered Rabbanim. It's like, again, it's exered. Everything Rabbanim. It's all Chumash Rabbanim here. But the rice is only eating hot meat and milk, cooked.
You know, you said last year that
the whole mixing is exered here. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, yes.
So that's the first opinion.
You must bench.
You don't have to wash your hands and you don't have to.
Because you're waiting 6 hours. The first opinion. According to the Rambam, you have to bench plus wait 6 hours. Yes. So now comes the Ramah. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. By which opinion are you talking about? The last opinion of the Otesis? Yes. No, he doesn't say. Then we don't need Sudachrina. What do you? So I like the right pshat. When does Marukva mean Sudachrina? Only if you didn't wash your hands. Either it makes it or you don't need Sudachrina, because the reason why you need a Sudachrina because your hands should not be oily. But here he said you wash your hands anyway, so you're not worried about it oily. Right? That's what they learn pshat.
According to the three
opinions,
so washing your mouth doesn't take out the cheese or the meat. It still make you wait 6 hours.
According to the Rambam, you have to wait 6 hours. According to Taisi, you have to wash your hands. And
no, according to the Rambam, it doesn't help by washing your hands. Doing it benching, washing your hands doesn't help.
6 hours.
So that means rinsing mouth doesn't work.
You still wait 6 hours. According to the Rambam, you wait 6 hours. Right? So again, now let's continue. Now there'll be the Ramah is going to make a fourth opinion, which is going to be a pshar. A pshar. A pshar means a compromise. What was the first opinion? The first opinion of the Rambam was you have to finish the meal at the bench, plus wait 6 hours. That was the Rambam's opinion, correct? Tosfos, the second opinion was you have to finish the meal and wash your hands. We'll get to that. So the Rama makes a compromise. There has to be siluk, you have to bench, but you don't have to wait 6 hours, you wait 1 hour. The Rambam says you have to bench plus 6 hours. And the Rama is going to say you have to bench in the new meal. You ate fleshig meal, you bench now for a bench to start a new meal, but you don't have to wait 6 hours. 1 hour is enough. After eating a steak, you bench, you wait 1 hour is enough.
What's his source for the 1 hour?
And the whole thing of 6 hours is a question.
Okay, but we brought the source.
Okay, we'll get to Rama. Rama is a good one. Yeah. It's a compromise kilo between the first and second. It's a fourth opinion. Yeah, right, correct. Now, good question. Now, according to the Ramah, that you wait only 1 hour, you bench. What about washing? There's going to be a machlokes of Shach and Taz if the Ramah says you have to wash or no wash. The Ramah says you have to bench, but wait 1 hour. Now, we know the second opinion was the Tosfos that you bench, right away you can have a cheese meal if you wash. By the Ramah, there will be a machlokes, Shach and Taz. Do you have to, in addition to waiting 1 hour, you have to rinse your mouth and wash your hands or not? Machlokes, Shach and Taz. Each one. We have to, I don't want to get anybody confused. Okay. So more or less, 3 opinions. The Ramah comes with his opinion. Now let's explain what's the reason of 6 hours. We mentioned Lechem Mishnah that explains where we got 6 hours in the story of Marukva. What's the reasoning of 6 hours? The reason 6 hours will be a machlokes of Rashi and the Rambam. Rashi says the reasoning is because both meat and chicken has some shamnunis, has some oiliness to it. That the oiliness or the fats of the meat and the cheese remains on your hands and in your mouth for 6 hours. The shamnunis, the taste of. I'm sorry. We'll talk about meat. Chicken we'll talk about soon. Meat and cheese. Both basar bechol have shamnunis, just like there's milk fat, there's meat fat, and the fatty fingers that have from the oily of the meat and of the cheese last on your hand and in your mouth for 6 hours. That's why the reasoning of 6 hours, not where we came. The 6 hours is, sorry? This is Rashi. 6 hours, that's the reasoning. After 6 hours, whatever taste or whatever fatty you have on your fingers are not clean, or your mouth still has the oily taste of it, whatever is there now is like upish. What's it? It's pogrom. It's like digested food. It's nothing there. It's not basar. It's nothing. Either basar or it's nothing. 6 hours keeps the taste, and the shamnun is there. That's Rashi's opinion. We'll think about the difference between hard and soft. That's Sif base. I don't want to jump to any cheese. Any cheese is oily. Cheese and milk is oily. Rashi says that is the reason 6 hours, because the shamnunis, he said they investigated, the shamnunis last 6 hours by the hand and the mouth, and after that it's not anymore basar. Correct. Correct. The Rambam says a different reason. The Rambam says when you eat meat, and as Khan said before, the meat gets stuck between your teeth. The meat gets stuck between your teeth. I guess nobody had those days toothpicks or something. So the meat gets stuck between your teeth, and therefore, if within 6 hours you're going to eat cheese, that when you're chewing with your teeth now, the piece of meat that's stuck between your teeth or in your gums or your cavity would come out, and now you're eating cheese with a piece of meat that came out of your between your teeth or from your cavity. So the Rambam said that after 6 hours is right, that it's an upush, it's wasted thing, it's nothing, it's not basar anymore.
So the Shittas say, Eina was some Palsha Teina.
It's
No, but he can switch his set of meat. And,
well, some people recommend that anyway.
no, I'm saying he doesn't have to wait 6 hours. The Shittas of Rambam.
Right. On the other hand, according to Rashi, they bring it. According to Rashi, that it's shamnunis. Let's say, does Rashi? What would Rashi hold that you have meat between your teeth after 6 hours? According to Ram, after 6 hours, the meat between your teeth you can eat cheese with. According to Ram, you cannot eat cheese with it. So there's a chumrah of Rashi here. Because Rashi says the shamnunis is not anymore basar. But if you have a real piece of meat that's stuck between your teeth, even after 6 hours, you can't do it. You need to you have to take it out. You can't eat cheese with it. According to the Rambam says the ikr is ben shnayim, like you're saying. So either you clean your teeth to make sure it's clean. So some say maybe you don't need 6 hours because you made sure there's no teeth, you cleaned, and somebody checked there's no. After 6 hours, because now she said the shamnunis is perish. Good. That's the way the Achreinim talk about that question. This is generally we learn now that the opinions about 6 hours and the two reasoning of Rashi and the Rambam. In detail, we have to learn the difference between eating meat and cheese or eating poultry, chicken and cheese, because chicken is again the Rabbanan. Do we have all these chumras? Even by eating chicken, you have to wait 6 hours. All these chumras are not. The question also is going to be, if you have a cheese meal first, how much you have to wait till you eat the meat? You have to wait, period, or an hour or a half hour in both areas. Another question will be, let's say you didn't actually eat meat. You ate a fleshig dish. Now, fleshig dish could be two ways. Either, let's say a simple example. You had a tray of potatoes, and in the same oven you baked a steak. And the tray of potatoes just under the same oven. And then you take out the potatoes. The potatoes are not called basar, they're tafshil shel basar. And then you can have a tafshil shel cholov. Is that the same dinim or no? Maybe here the potatoes or the rice, or the other example we'll give later on is a soup. You have a soup that you cooked it with the chicken, but then you took out all the chicken. The chicken was in a bag or so. Now it's only the liquid of it. It's called a tafshil, a marak, a soup of chicken. Is that the same din, the 6 hours? Or 6 hours only applies to real meat? We'll get to that inside in the Shulchan Aruch itself. Let's start now with the presentation of this Siman. The separation between eating meat and milk. The topics that we'll talk about in this Siman, the whole Siman Pei Tes. How long should one wait after eating meat? Next topic. What are the reasons for waiting 6 hours after meat? The halachas of eating meat after cheese. Must we wait after eating hard cheese? That's going to be Sif Beis. We're not going to get to that. Sif Beis. Must we wait after eating a dish cooked with meat or cheese? Like I'm saying, a dish cooked with might be, I have a tray of potatoes and I have a steak here. They're cooked together, but this is not fleshig. It's fleshig. I can't eat it with milk, but can I eat this potato? And later on, after I have a coffee, talk about it as well. Is it permitted to cut cheese with a meat knife, cold? Is it permitted to cook part of the food with meat knife and then eat the food with cheese? These are practical questions, Sif Gimel and Dal at the end of the Siman. Okay, before I get to the Gemara, where we learned now, I want to just to mention a Shal Hachuvah that I made research, and I gave it to be typed and to publish it. And here is going to be the question that I put together from many Shal Hachuvahs. What happens that a person ate a fleshik meal, and 2-3 hours later, he took a piece of cheese. I middle of 6 hours. Should he swallow the cheese and not to make a bracha batola, or better make a bracha batola, say baruch Shem and don't eat the cheese? This question is brought down by the Darkei Tshuva, by Madani Shulchan, Pischei Megodim. They all have the same question. The Darkei Tshuva says that he brings a Sefer Zechor Avram that actually happened to him. For the Gdei Poskim, it happened to him. that before 6 hours, he made a bracha. He made a bracha on the cheese, and he chaps after the bracha before tasting that he didn't. It was in the 6 hours. So the Dark Yeshua brings from that sefer that if you after 4 hours, we're going to rely on who? On the Pri Chodosh. Who the Pri Chodosh said that in the winter time it's only 4 hours. So even when you're in the summertime, he said, I have a source to be makel for 4 hours. That's one hat that the Dark Yeshua says. The other opinion will be, let's say you're not 4 hours. Let's say you're after 1 hour. You're after 1 hour. So could you be makel according to the Ramah? The Ramah has opinion that you only have to wait 1 hour. So perhaps 1 hour, if you wash your hands and rinse your mouth. And let's say you didn't rinse your mouth yet. So the pasuk say, rinse your mouth now, before eating. He's made the bracha, rinse your mouth, and it won't be a hefsek because it's a hefsek l'tzeirach. They bring it out, there's a hefsek l'tzeirach. Like a person says, bring me the salt, bring me the knife, I have to make a motzi. It's a hefsek l'tzeirach. That's one. Another question. Another hat would be: what happens if you within the hour? Could you rely even on the other one that another day that balatosis or only even a half hour? So there'll be different scenarios and opinions. We'll look at the whole chart that I put together. How you make on that scenario. Now here's another question. Let's say a person already has it in his mouth. He didn't remind himself before he put it in his mouth and it's on his lip already. The cheese is on the lip. Should he swallow it or not? So many people says if it's on the taste already, swallow it. Some say only ma'at, some say kazayis. This is a collection of all the poskim that I brought down. But interesting enough that some of the poskim I saw bring down the Alter Rebbe as a base to a new thing. But if you made a bracha, shahakal leave the body because you already told the cheese. But after the cheese, you wanted to have something on the table. Another food that's the same bracha of yours as shackle that you had in mind. I'm gonna eat that next. Any shackle, whatever food we have. Then switch it, drop the cheese, and eat the shackle that's on your table. Even though the halach is that when you make a bracha, you should hold the food in your hand. So the Alter Rebbe paskins, let's say you had something in your hand and by mistake it fell down and it got dirty. You're not gonna eat this anymore. What should you do? The Alter Rebbe paskins that if there's something on the table in front of your eyes while you made the bracha, you can use that as the bracha you made before, even though you didn't have it in your hand. Or if you had something in your hand and later on you found out it's not kosher, but you have on the table that you were going to eat anyway, on the table, that's the same bracha, eat that. There's going to be a machlokes between Alter Rebbe and Mishnah Berurah. Does it have to be on the table? According to the Mishnah Berurah, does not have to be on the table. As long as you wanted to eat it in the meal, you can take that and eat it now. The Alter Rebbe is machmer. There has to be, when I made the bracha, I had to have in mind that I'm going to eat it in this meal, in this session of the meal. Plus, it was on the table that I made the bracha on. So this whole question of making the bracha of bracha vatola, according to Alter Rebbe, the best way is if you have something on the table with the same bracha, eat that, not the cheese. Later on, if you don't have something, the question is how should you do? Baruch Shem, or eat something, which is all the different scenarios that we had here, which will play a role in all these questions. There'll be an opinion that says maximum makazayis. The other opinion says the minimum you have to eat in order not to be over a bracha vatola. The minimum. Right. No, you can't care. But the kosher. So the one of they says you're only allowed a kosher because that's the only thing you save yourself bracha vatola. Another person said up to kazayis. But it's interesting enough brought down that if a person by mistake, it might happen. There's a word that I once saw in a sefer that Chassidim wear tefillin to be in times tefillin. And there's a machlokes how the tefillin, how the lineup of the parsha should be. According to Rashi is one way, according to Ben Tam is a different way. And there's a legendary story that Rashi was writing parshas and he took his grandchild. Ben Tam was Rashi's grandchild, and he was running around and he wanted to play around with Zaidi. So Rashi put his grandchild on his lap, Rabbeinu Tam, and as he's playing, the Rashi had an inkwell with a feather. That's the way he used to write in those days. And he had in front of him a parsha that he wrote. And by mistake, or the kid was not mistaking, he tumbled over the inkwell and poured over the whole parsha that Zaidi wrote. And Zaidi said to that, I think my grandchild is going to have a disagreement with me and with my parshas. That's a legendary story. But what I want to bring out is that it says in Svarim, it wrote down in Svarim, that every person or chassid who wears a ben tam, at least one time in his lifetime, he will make a mistake and take out the ben tams first and make a bracha on the ben tam. Because the whole machlok is which order is right, Rashi's order or ben tam's order. We will make a mistake one time and make a bracha on ben tams. So here I want to bring out there's two points that I saw that brings down that in any case, a person by mistake, but let's not use it out. By mistake, you ate a milchuk meal within the 6 hours. By mistake, you ate the full meal, and after the meal, you say, "Oh, I forgot I'm middle of 6 hours." It happens sometimes. Those that calculate when the cholent is finished, because you won't have the pizza much Shabbos, so sometimes it doesn't really work out the 6 hours of the cholent to pizza. By mistake, they ate within the 6 hours. So the two poskim that I quoted here is "Ein tzorach kapor." You don't need kapor, even if you say the Rabbanon, and if the Rabbanon is machlokes, if you need a kapor of the Rabbanon or not. But he said this whole 6 hours is only a exeda to say you need a kapor. Ain't tzorach kapor by mistake. We can't use it out. By mistake, if you ate a meal within the 6 hours, ain't tzorach kapor. Okay, we have here. My kids are sure. Kids don't what? Yeah. Yeah, this whole thing is about the whole. Yeah. Okay. Good. Only. It has to be boss or behemoth, and it has to be that the taruvis was a hot way, and then you ate it. Then it's the rice. But if it's a cold mixture, or it's bezeh in the mouth, yeah. So let's read the Gemara. The Gemara Chulin Kuf Hey Amidal states. We read in English, right? Mar Ukva said, "I am with regard to this matter like vinegar, son of wine, with respect to a father." Which means my practice is inferior to that of my father. As father, if we were to eat meat at this time, he would not eat cheese until tomorrow this time. But as for me, only this meal during which I ate meat do not eat cheese. At a different meal on the same day, I will eat cheese. So what does Baruch say? My father, listen to me, my father was machmir 24 hours between meat and cheese. I'm not like my father. The example of vinegar versus wine is vinegar is spoiled wine. Spoiled wine becomes a vinegar. So he says, I'm spoiled. My father had it his way. 20, you decide. You want to eat today. Sunday, you want to eat a cheese meal, and Monday, a fleshig meal, but you can't have it in the same 24 hours. Maroka says, I don't have it in the same meal. Right? Look at the second to the last line in the Hebrew. Right? Next meal, I will eat the cheese. What? I will eat. So here the question is, what does the second meal come? Right? Cheese should not be eaten after meat until it's another meal. Okay? What does another meal mean, and how long should one wait? The Rambam Shita, right? The Rambam, the Rosh and the Rif, right? One should wait 6 hours, which is the amount of time between breakfast and dinner. Taisus Shita is, after the table with meal food is removed and Birks Hamazon is said, they may be eaten. I want to say something. Siluk, the Rosh of the Pasuk is Siluk HaSudah. Siluk HaSudah means it's over with. So Siluk HaSudah is, in those days, they used to have small tables. Everybody got their own private table. Take away the table, bench, and over. But I want to mention again here, according to Taisus, you have to wash your hand, rinse your mouth. Meaning Ashkenaz, that's the Rabbi Tam, the Hag. The table should be removed and Birkas HaMazon should be recited, and then 1 hour should be waited. What that's you get ready that's the Ramo. The Zohar, the Ramo is, according to many Pirushim, the Ramo is based on the Zohar. Let's get to the halacha. The Mechaber's opinion is one should wait 6 hours, which is the amount of time between breakfast and dinner. Okay? It is proper to behave in this way. That's the Mechaber, that you should follow that order. Traces, if the table with meat food is removed and Birkas Hamazon is said, dairy meat may be eaten, and the mouth must be washed and rinsed before eating cheese. Meaning Ashkenaz, the table should be removed and Birkas Hamazon should be recited, and then 1 hour should be waited. The Taz says, and the mouth must be washed and rinsed. The mouth does need to be washed. Check it out. Right, you're not bringing the bahag.
It's more makel than the.
Yeah, yes. Let me just see the correction over here. No.
This book on page 67 says the shot right
The
not need to watch.
shop says
Does not need to be.
that's on page 32.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's what I'm saying. What? Yeah, but this is not. Yeah. So this is missing a word not. The mouth does not need to be washed and rinsed. So the shach, there's missing a word not. The mouth does not need to be washed. Yeah.
It makes sense that the face is more makel than the Ross is 1 hour. The face you can do within 30 seconds. Once you move the table.
Correct. Yes. Okay. The reason. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. The chart either was, but the translation, the word fell out. The word not. Let me make a note of that. Okay. The reason to wait 6 hours after meat, the Rishonim's opinion. You got that? Rambam's opinion because meat gets stuck between the teeth. Rashi's opinion because the taste remains in the mouth. Okay, what will be the difference? This is all brought down in the if one chews meat for a child without eating it, you're just chewing it. By chewing it, you're not going to get stuck. So according to the Rambam, one needs to wait. And according to Rashi, one does not need to wait. Again, another bottom line, if meat is found in the mouth after 6 hours, according to the Rambam, it does not need to be removed because after 6 hours, nothing. According to Rashi, it needs to be removed. After kinuach v'adocha, even after 6 hours, because it's still pieces. He said that the fatty, the oiliness after 6 hours goes away, but you have to take away the actual meat between the teeth. Because once you chew in your mouth, you might get stuck to your teeth. But the shamnun is not 26 hours. Because the shamnun is the oiliness of the meat is not from just chewing, but from eating it. But just chewing it to make it soft for the child, you're not getting the full fattiness of the meat.
Right? And a hot piece of bread to get the meat out, right? And then you swallow it. Didn't you just eat fish?
Correct.
Then how do you afraid else is out?
Why? It's not. You're rinsing it. You're rinsing it.
You went down.
Yeah, but you're rinsing. You're taking it out of your mouth. Down your in stomach is okay. Flesh your what? What do you flesh your gum? Flesh your gum? Oh, there's nothing that's stuck in your teeth. Maybe they
Clean out your
According to the Rambam, you need to, Rashi, you don't need to wait after chewing the food because I know it doesn't get stuck. He doesn't care if it gets stuck in the teeth.
The fat doesn't stay.
You swallow it?
No, if you really eat it, not only by chewing it and give it to the child.
What about your hands?
It's not enough time. In other words, you're not eating it. Right. Right. If this and it sticks in his mouth. if the things in his mouth that Rashi said there's no limit of time, you take it out of your mouth. Good. Yeah. The story of Rashi is what? The shamnunis is the taste, he says. We'll get to that. That's in Shulchan. Now that we're going now to the Shulchan, because that's next Sei'fim. I want to stay one Sei'fim at a time. How's doing that? No, the Torah described by the midbar that you'll have so much meat that it can be between your teeth. But it's not saying that you'll allowed to eat cheese after that. Don't say that in Torah. You have so much meat that it can be basar ben shenayim. Let's start this Sif. Siman Peites. We're going to start Sif Aleph. The cash of the Siman is Shalilechel Gvina Achar Basar. Not to eat cheese after meat. Sif Aleph. The Sif Aleph is going to talk about Din Achilas Gvina B'chol Achar Achilas Basar. The din of eating cheese or milk after eating meat. A second din would be haloyis latinik. If you chew it for a child, you want to make a mush, you want to make it softer for the child, so you're chewing the meat. And also, if you find in your mouth between your teeth after 6 hours, what's the din? And the last thing is haminig b'medinas Ashkenaz, in the Ashkenaz, the German Medina, which is we are from the Ashkenaz, but originally was from Germany and Austria. Lahamtin aksho. They had the minig, the yeki had the minig, lahachila, only 1 hour. So let's start the sif. Ochal basar, if a person ate meat, afilu shel chayev oif. Afilu shel chayev, even if it's not real behemoth meat, it's only a wild animal meat or poultry. I'm going to say right away, let's look Shach Aleph, right? Kleimar shehei midrabanan. Poultry or chaya meat is only midrabanan. Or commercial cost of Siman Peizayin. We learned earlier in Siman Peizayin that poultry and chaya is drabanan. Even drabanan meat, we have another drabanan to wait 6 hours. Back to the sif. Lo yochal gvina acharav. You should not eat meat. You should not eat cheese after the meat. Until you wait 6 hours has to lapse between eating the meat and eating cheese or milk. Whether it's meat of an animal or meat of a wild animal or of chicken, you have to wait 6 hours. 6 hours. Okay, let's continue. Bafilu im shah kishir, says the Mechaber, even if you wait 6 hours. Im yesh bosa ben hashinayim, if there's still meat between your teeth, sarich lahasira, you have to remove the meat from between your teeth. Okay, so in other words, what is the Mechaber saying? Initially he says that the Rambam says 6 hours. You have to wait 6 hours. The details, we have to get to the details. The Rambam said you have to bench also earlier. You have to have a new suda and also 6 hours. And then he says, after 6 hours, according to the Mechaber, if there's still ben hashanayim, you can't keep it there. If you're chewing the meat to make it softer for a child to eat, even though you're not swallowing it, you're not using the full process of your mouth, you're only chewing it with your teeth to make it softer and give it to the child, you still have to wait 6 hours. That is the Mechaber. Okay, let's learn Taz Aleph. We're not starting the Ramah Taz Aleph. Says the Taz Aleph, Ad sheyishe shei shores. You have to wait 6 hours after eating a meat meal. Yesh bazeh base time. There are two reasonings given. Aleph, I have a question. Why the Taz is not going to mention that the first reasoning is Rashi? The second reason is going to mention that's the Rambam. Why does it mention the source? But that's what it says. Ha'aleph. Yeah, okay, yeah. Ha'aleph, Shabasar Moitzi Shuman, meat gives out fat, oily, Umoishech Tam, and the taste lengthens its time there, Atzmanor. So here it's like a combination, it lengthens. the combination that we had before, but the observer can ask. It has both mean together. What is he trying to say here? Shuman, the fatty part, the oily part, it lasts longer, and with the oily part extends the taste of the meat till the oily part dissolves. Okay, that's the first reason, which is the Rashi reason why 6 hours. The tam base, or tam Rambam, the shum basar the teeth, the meat between the teeth. The mikre basar is considered meat. At sheish until 6 hours, what's between your teeth is called meat. After 6 hours, the meat that's between your teeth is considered like digested meat, like rotten meat. It's not food anymore. It's not meat anymore. According to this, gam haloyis chayv lahamtin. Digested. I'm explaining. Right, but I translate when I say. Gam haloyis, the one who chews it, chayv lahamtin, he also has to wait the 6 hours. Why? Because when you chew it, you have both issues, like you before on the chart. It wasn't so clear, but the Taz is saying when you chew it, you have both. You're having the fatty in your mouth, and you're having between the it could be stuck between your teeth. So there's no difference if you really ate it for yourself or you're chewing it for a child. You have to have a wait of lapse of 6 hours. There's a kula about the teeth that's between your teeth. After 6 hours. What's the kula? After 6 hours, according to the Rambam, we just said after 6 hours it's not called basar anymore. And according to Rashi, it's still basar. Rashi says if it's actual meat there, you have to remove it. The kaimalon lahachmir kishnei timing. Said the Taz, our opinion is to be chomor, stringent on both reasons, which means that after 6 hours, you can't be makel like the Rambam said. After 6 hours, whatever's between my teeth is okay. No, even after 6 hours, I have to take it out of my mouth. And the same thing is the shamnunis by the lois. If I chew it, both. In other words, any chuman of both opinions applies. Whether Rashi's reasoning of the 6 hours, or Rambam's reasoning of the 6 hours, any reasoning applies. Yeah, I'm sorry. Correct.
Where he says we're going both ways, both stories. So without the measuring point, it's not the Rambam or Rashi.
Right, it's a combination. It's a chumrah of both. Right. That's what the Taz is explaining. That we're machmer both chumras. Okay. Right. So that was the Taz Aleph. Now we'll get to the Shach Beis. The Shach Beis. The Shach Beis starts on the Mechaber that you have to wait for 6 hours. Says the Shach, these are the wording of the Torah. Within the 6 hours, so the Shach is going to explain again. We have the two opinions of Rashi and Rashi and Rambam. According to Rashi, we're only worried about the meat between the teeth. So if I clean my teeth, what? According to Rashi, I'm worried about the shamnunis. According to the Rambam, I'm worried about between my teeth. So says the Torah, if within the 6 hours I clean my teeth and there's nothing between my teeth, right? Also, why? Because I'm taking the chumrah of Rashi. So the Torah himself saying I'm using both reasoning, Rashi and Rambam. According to this reason, if he didn't eat it, and it chewed it for the child, why not? Only by eating it. That's how he says it. By eating it, brings out the taste, and the taste lasts long. Okay?
No.
What? Sorry? They're eating it, but not by chewing it.
Doesn't make sense.
We have to ask a scientist. But that's this.
Chewing is chewing.
But The taste buds is when you chew it or when you swallow it. The taste bud is actually when a person chews it for a child. You chew it, lav dafka, you have the taste of it. You chew it to make it soft. You have your front teeth and chew.
You have a little bit of taste, but you see that
When you
after
swallow,
you digest,
that's when you have the taste.
You can have after effects of the taste.
It's, but you, what's that? Lois meaning you're taking a piece of hard meat and you're chewing it, not to eat, not to taste it. You're chewing it to make it softer for the child. You usually use the front teeth, chewing it to make it softer. You're not even taking the taste buds on the tongue or the front or the back, but you're not even using it for taste. You're chewing it to make it softer. Sorry, well that's gonna be a question. Spitting out is gonna work. That's also gonna be a good question.
It's not only that. There's a little bit of taste that you get in the mouth. There's what endures, what stays.
It's a shame. Okay. Now, the Rambam Nasan Tam, the Rambam says the reason Lashia, what's the reason of 6 hours? Mishum Basar Shabin Hashanayim. Because the teeth, the meat between the teeth, because when you chew for a child, you're chewing the front teeth, you might have something stuck in your front teeth. Right. The Tur says that we should do both chumras. The same like the Taz says, we're using the chumra of Rashi and Rambam. The Shach said the same thing and he quotes the name of the Tur. Okay? The Shach quotes the Tur. Yeah, this is big. Okay, sometimes. And according to that, we understand what the Mechaber wrote. The Mechaber wrote 6 hours, and he wrote also about chewing for the child, and also what happens if you have the meat between your teeth after 6 hours. Why does he write these two things about the meat between the teeth after 6 hours? And why does he mention about chewing for a child? To bring that both reasoning, Rashi's reasoning of the Shamnunis, and the Rambam's reasoning of between the teeth, both of them machmer both ways. Of course, the Lavush. We spoke about the Lavush. He wrote the 10 Sforim, and he wanted to say for that Zov on the Yeredeya. Look what he writes. Man, if it's within the 6 hours, afilu ein basar ben hashanayim, even if there's no meat between your teeth, asur. Why? Lefisha basar meitzi shumon, because the meat gives out a oiliness, a fattiness. And the taste and the fattiness last a long time. So even though you'll check your teeth with a toothpick in the front of the mirror, you have nothing between your teeth, you still have to wait 6 hours because of the Rashi's opinion that the fattiness endures the taste of meat for 6 hours. But if you did not eat it, but you only chewed it with your front teeth for a child to make soft the meat, you have to wait. Even if you did not eat it. The Lavush has a different twist, and the parents would agree with the Lavush. You don't have to say that that your reason why you have to, why if it's because over here it says that even if you chew it for a child, it's not yet because the taste is still there. Not because of between the teeth. So the Lavush kind of explains the Tur with a different. The Tur says the reason why haloyis, why choosing for a child you have to be machmer because of between the teeth. Says it Lavush, no, for the shuman itself, even though I didn't eat it, the shuman itself. So we have here between the Oren and the Peretz, we have here the Tur and the Lavush. But what does he say? Odvarav tmuhin. Whatever the Lavush says is tamua. To say that just by chewing it to throat to make it softer, that's already have the taste that's going to endure 6 hours. He says tamua. He disagrees with the reasoning, but the Allah he has anyway from the other reason. Yeah. Correct. But he's tamua and the reasoning of the psak din remains the same anyway. The Shach holds like the Tur.
No, but you do have a good question. What happens if I don't eat it and stuff? The whole reason that when you chew,
Go to Rambam.
the Why would you? But then I know you got stuck. You have to come on to the other reason. I'm sure they said you have to wait 6 hours.
The question you say, let's say according to the Rambam, it gets stuck, and I'll clean it in 6 hours. Can I say it's good? So according to the Rambam per se, if you're not going to combine both chumras, if you're going to check your teeth within 6 hours, might be good. Okay. The Shach only brings down the Lavush. I disagree with him. But the Lamaisa Poil, we take both chumras. They both explain why the Mechaber paskin this way. What is the Mechaber paskin? Both ways you paskin the chewing, you have to wait, and also between your teeth after 6 hours you have to wait. We're not getting. First you got to with the chicken itself. We're talking about about chicken itself. What would be the question about chicken? Chicken doesn't get stuck between your teeth like meat. Doesn't. What? Okay. Let's go to the Hagor. Listen to the Ramah. Okay. Says the Ramah, V'imotzo achar kach boso shebin hashanayim. Says the Ramah, if after 6 hours I still find between my teeth a little bit of meat, and I remove the meat, you took out the meat and it's after 6 hours, not enough. You have to rinse your mouth before eating cheese. So what is the Ramah adding something? The Ramah is adding something twofold. One thing the Ramah is adding, which the Shach is going to be medayik, that if after 6 hours and you don't find anything between your teeth, you don't have to rinse your mouth. You have to bench, wait 6 hours, and then eat cheese. The whole thing of kinuach, of rinsing your mouth, says the Ramah in the wording of the Ramah, as the Noisikael Midaik, is only if I found meat between my teeth and I removed it, then I have to rinse my mouth. But if I don't find any meat between my teeth, I don't have to rinse my mouth. Let's learn now the Shach Gimel, please. That within 6, if you wait, you don't find anything, you don't have to wash. If you do find, you have to wash. Only then. Gimel. Shach Gimel. Shach Gimel writes here, and the Ramah says that if you found after 6 hours, you found meat between the teeth and you took it away, you have to rinse your mouth. Umasire, kosaran, the ain't sora shias vov shoys, moises man shemasire elamachila. Don't think after 6 hours you found meat between your teeth and now you're removing it. I gotta wait another 6 hours from removing the teeth. Sorry? Right. Because if the reason why you have to remove it, because it's considered meat, so you still have meat in your mouth, so you should wait till. So we're combining the Mashiach and between teeth. So that's the Ran said. The Ran saying you don't have to wait 6 hours for when cleaning your teeth. You have to wait 6 hours for when you ate the real meat. The cost of it is chatas klal involved in olive. The hu adin li haminig b'amtana shah. We'll get to the end of the Ramah. We're going to say the minig is those that have a minig to wait an hour. So he said the same thing is you don't have to wait the hour from when you clean your teeth. The hour you have to wait from when you ate the meat. Okay? Shach Dalet. Sarich la'adiach piv, you have to rinse your mouth. Uberan kosav, shet sarich kinuach ha'peh. Lahiskir hadochas peh. We mentioned that in the poskim we'll talk about kinuach ve'hadocha. Kinuach ve'hadocha meaning rinsing with liquid and with solid. Solid might be a piece of cake, dessert cake, or a piece of bread. So he says, the Ran says, the Ran only mentions rinsing kinuach. V'chein hetik v'bes Yosef v'elachaim shom v'teres chatas. V'hainu the ozel tamei, because the Ran goes according to his reasoning. The sfirale ba'alma The loy beina adachas peh. You don't need to have, when you rinse, liquid is enough. According to our opinion, that by rinsing you need both. You need liquid and some solid. Whenever it says rinsing, you have to do both ways. That's what the Ramah means to say tzorich la'adiach piv upshiti the boy k'namikinuach el shekitze v'loshen nirali. In other words, hadocha kinuach is more common than hadocha. What is so the Shach explains what does the Ramah specify tzorich la'adiach piv and not the kaneach piv, because the kaneach for sure you need. So you need both kinuach and hadocha. In other words, even today's time, there's a meaning, especially by Polish Chassidim, that between Shabbos, between fish and the next course, which is going to be chicken soup or meat, they rinse both ways. They have a schnapps, Zukta L'chaim. They don't use vodka, they use Slivovich, whatever they use there. And they have a piece of mezainis or a piece of challah. They do both. If you notice any Polish Chassidim. Kinuach v'adocha, they do it between the fish and the meat. But this, what? Yeah, but whenever you need to have cleansing of the mouth, our opinion is that you need both the liquid and the solid, because some are cleaned by the liquid in the mouth, some are cleaned by the solid. Like that, everything is solid that's in your mouth gets stuck with the solid, and it goes swallowed together. So what does the Shach tell us? The Shach telling us, even though the Ran only mentions one, but the rule is going to be here, and he bases on the wording. Why does the Ramah say tzorach la'adiach, not lekaneach? It means both, but kinuach is a given. So he adds, you have to also do hadocha, which means you have to, whenever it's going to say rinsing your mouth, it means both ways, liquid and solid. Sorry? No. Either one comes first. That's what Shach learned Shach in the Ramah. Yeah. Whenever it's, because lididan, whenever you have to rinse, it means both ways. Okay. We'll continue next two lines in the Ramah. The Yeshayimrim, watch this Yeshayimrim, let's figure out whose opinion is this. The Ein Tzrichin Lahamti Sheshois, says the Ramah, there's an opinion that says we don't have to wait Bechlal 6 hours. Rak Miyad Im Silak, as soon as he finishes his meal, Silak may remove the table. Or Beirach Birchas Hamozen, and he benching, he finished the meal, mutter, he's permitted to eat the cheese, alidei kinuach v'adocha. Here is specified. Oh, but Tai's opinion is, so the Ramah says, the Yeshayim is, Tai's opinion is that he done, the whole idea of 6 hours, where did Ram get it from 6 hours? What waiting 6 hours? You have to wait a new meal. The new meal, as soon as the meal is over, gegangen. Right? Let's go now to a Shach Hey. Okay? Shach Hey v'yeshayim says the Shach, Tam Plutosim, the reasoning of their argument. The Isa v'shas pedikol abosor, the Gemara says in Chulin, the achar bosor, after meat, also lechol gvina atsuda acheres. After meat, you can't eat cheese till the next meal. The Das for Ishayna, the first opinion, which is the Ram and Rosh and Rif, the Hainu, what's next meal? The Hainu Kidei Siman, Suudas HaBoiker, Atsudas Erev. The next meal means as time lapse between the morning meal and the evening meal. Shu Shei Shors. As far as Hayashemrim, the Miyat Kishes Silak, Ubeirach Mikisur Achares. There's no time lapse. You finish the meal. You're allowed to do it. Okay. The Koser Marshal Sham, the Marshal on the Gemara Chulin writes, the Lakula Alme, all the opinions agree. If he did not finish his meal and didn't bench yet, Afilu Kola Impulay Asur. Let's say he had a farbrengen and he ate a meat meal, and if the farbrengen lasted 10 hours, more than 6 hours, you cannot have cheese in the same meal. Why not? The Habin is Sudacheres, because the rule number one has to be next meal. It says that Ashal Vaharbe B'nei Adam Nakilam Bazeh, the Torah should be Adam. The Mashal says people think the rule is 6 hours, according to the Rambam. No, the rule is next meal. How much is next meal? 6 hours. But if you're going to have a meal and extend it for bringing it 10 hours, and then somebody's going to bring in milchiks in the meal, you can't have it. It's still the same meal. So the rule number one, you have to bench and finish the meal, then you have a chance. So the whole idea of the reasoning of 6 hours is only based if we have to have 6 hours. Where do we have the whole notion of 6 hours? Because Marupa says Suda Acheres. Suda Acheres is what? According to Tais, is not even no waiting of a time. So the first rule is Suda Acheres. Suda Acheres means you bench. Yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. No, right. Yeah. What?
You said cooling over for Beta time
All right, that's what you just said, Zerkin. That the Mashal say Kul Alma, according to Ben Tam Bahag, you could have in the same meal. But Mashal didn't even take that opinion. Okay. What the Ramos says in his Ago, Avo beloy birch hamozin, loy mehani hamitona shah. The Ramos is going to say, we're soon going to get to the Ramos, that the Ramos is mini. The Ramos is going to write, towards the end of the next page of 32, the Ramos right there, that if without benching, you can't, an hour's wait wouldn't help anything. Says the Shach, Mashakos Rabbi God, Avbulay Bersamozin, Loy Mahani Hamtona Shah, who loved Avke. The Ein Achanami, the Kolayim Kuli Osar Chasiluka Beta. The Ramah is going to say, according to the opinion that you have to wait 1 hour. And if you wait 1 hour, you didn't bench, that's not going to help. Says the Shach, loved Avke 1 hour. If you didn't bench, you can wait a whole day, it's not going to help. Because the rule number one, you have to finish the Suda of the meat Suda. How do you finish it? By removing the meal and benching. But if you did not remove the meal, then time lapse does not help us to eat cheese in the same meal. Exclusive by the Bahag and the Rabbein Tam. Sorry? And what? So we asked the question before, the guy forgot benching. Somebody asked before, a guy forgot benching. And now he can't bench anymore. It's after 7. But we have to find a siluk hasuda. How is siluk hasuda? The bench now. Okay, good. But then the problem is going to be we're not allowed to bench to eat cheese. So what your suggestion now is bench now, and now eat cheese. Okay, you can't bench to eat cheese. Good. But there has to be a format of siluk suda. We had before a question. I'm sorry? And then how are you going to get back to continue suda?
No. Then you sit down again at the table.
Well, yeah, but then if the getting up to the table will show that you're finishing the meal, and then somehow you get back, it's siluk suda. What's going to show siluk suda? Siluk suda shows two things: either removing the table. So let's say
So Bismanei that was removing the table. Bismanei, nobody removed the table.
people remove the whole fleishika meal to bring a dessert. So removing the whole fleishika meal is siluk suda. It still needs birchamos. We're talking about a case like you asked before. If it's too long, I can't bench now anyway. But what can you do a siluk suda? So Amanda is saying bench now. So I said bench.
What about the fact that you waited so long that you can't bench? That in itself makes it very soon.
No, but he said koliyim kulay. If you ate some. Right.
It doesn't make you stop at 6 hours if you don't do something.
6 hours from when you ate the meat, not from benching.
So you could have 12 hours and if you don't silica. So that what's the concept?
Because the Gemara is again. Because in our minds, the ikr is 6 hours. But the Gemara's mind, surachri, that's ikr. Because by a person, when are we worried that a person is going to mix meat and milk in the same suda? That's the whole reason. Okay, we're up to here in the Shach. Hey. Right?
Yeah. No, we did it.
Let's we did okay. Now Shach Vov. Shach Vav is the same piece of the Ramah that he had benched. Ubeirach Birchas Hamazon. Says the Shach, neither the im ochal bosor beloisude. He had a barbecue without washing bread. So what's the best Hamazon? What? You have to have a benching. Without benching, it's not called siluk. So the shach is makbid, not only removing the table like I said before, benching shows that a proper siluk. So if a person somehow left the table and went to a next table there to continue the bringing there, that could be siluk. If you left one area to do something else. But if not, it's not called siluk. We have to do something that shows I'm finished with the meal, with the fleishik meal.
In the mind.
But how do you show that in mind?
I'm saying,
But how do you show that? Okay. I'm going to continue the Ramah and probably we'll finish without learning the Shach and Taz today. Concludes the Ramah, Va'aminig ha'poshut b'medinas elu. The most popular minig in these countries. Lehamtin achar achilas basar, to wait after meat. Sha'achas, only 1 hour. Va'oichlin achar kach, and after the 1 hour, gvina you eat cheese. Miu tzrichin levorech gamke birchas hamazon achar basar. You have to. The minig is to wait only 1 hour, but you have to bench. The oz havek yisuda acheres. By benching, it's like next meal. The muter lecher ledivri amakilim. So why do I call this a compromise? Because manusha. If I say benching means another meal, why wait? Do like the Toisa said. You bench, you eat no meal. If I say you have to wait, what's the cheshbon 1 hour, 6 hours? What's the cheshbon? Don't wait at all. Manusha. So like a kind of a compromise. I wait like the Rambam asked me to wait, and I say I don't have to wait 6 hours. Like Toisa says that benching is a new meal. But without benching, it doesn't help me the waiting of an hour. Says the Shach Dalid, not only doesn't help waiting 1 hour, it doesn't help waiting 10 hours. If I didn't bench, waiting doesn't help. It doesn't make a difference when the hour was. Did I wait the hour before benching or after benching? If I have to wait an hour between eating of the meat and eating the cheese, as long as I have to make a cheshbon. When did I eat the meat? I mean, many people had a cheshbon. When's the last time I had the meat in Shabbos? Not when I'm going to bench. After the meat, I had dessert for half hour. But when did I eat the meat? So he said that it doesn't have to be have to have the waiting time after benching. The waiting time goes from when you ate the meat. If the meaning is we wait 1 hour and after the 1 hour you found meat between your teeth, you have to clean your teeth, to remove it from your teeth. That is the practice that the Ramah says is practiced where? In Germany, in Austria, and Poland, that was the common practice. But what does the Ramah say now? Yes, Aimrim. Don't bench in order to eat cheese. In other words, I'm not ready. I'm still want to eat. I'm still kind of hungry. But I can't eat cheese now because it has to be siluk hasuda. So what am I going to do? I'm going to bench now in order to have siluk hasuda, in order to eat cheese. That you shouldn't do. You shouldn't bench for cheese. You have to remove it and wash it. Cold skin. Yep. But because we're not going to, because over there it's talking about hadicha. Here doesn't mention hadicha. Masira means to remove the meat, but you have to. Yep, but not kinuch hadocha. It doesn't mention kinuch hadocha over here, but shoachas. That's the machlok Shach and Taz. The hasira to remove it, but not how do you have to rinse your mouth or to take a toothpick and take it out. But the nakri ulasiri doesn't say rinsing your mouth or mashaking before. It said rinsing your mouth. Right. Let's continue to finish the Ramah. Aval ein nizharim bazeh. And here there's going to be the Taz talking about what does it mean ein nizharim bazeh? Does it mean ein nizharim bazeh that people are not careful and they do bench to eat cheese? The Ramah just wrote that don't bench to eat cheese. Don't do that. So maybe it's writing here that people are not careful and they do bench to eat cheese. That was the Taz is going to be talking about that. Let's continue the Ramah. V'yesh medakdikin lahamtin sheishars. There are those who are stringent medakdik that they do wait 6 hours. Achachilas basel v'kvino v'chein nachoin lases. So what do we have it? The Mechaber says 6 hours is a must. The Ramah says an opinion says that you don't have to wait anything at all, or the minhag is to wait 1 hour. But the final verdict of the Ramah is nachoin, proper to have the conduct, follow the Mechaber and wait 6 hours. I want to again reiterate what I said before. The end of the Siman Pei test is going to be a summary of Pezayin, Peches, Pei test, and there will be both a written test and an oral test. I know we're going through Yom Tov time, and after Yom Tov, as much as we can, there will be a review share, maybe even more, depend time limit, and try to fill in as many shachatat that we didn't do. But please try to review it either in the summaries or in the English, and we'll have a successful. And I want to make sure. There's a klal, chazokim. When you learn something, you know it. Sometimes people get, stage fright, or last minute they get sometimes blacked out. We know that. So if you learn it, you know it. Just review it, and everybody's gonna know it. You have to.